Yes. Woo! Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. So we're going to start off today, and I'm very excited about today and hearing from members of the book group. I've got some lyrics I'm going to put into the chat. This is a song by Pat Humphries of Emma's Revolution, and I think we have done it before. Uh, and this is how it goes. In a many-colored garden, we are growing side by side. We will rise all together, we will rise. With the sun and moon upon us, not a row will be denied. We will rise all together, we will rise. Now this is the chorus. We will rise like the ocean, we will rise like the sun. We will rise all together. We will rise. In our many-colored fabrics made from strands of common thread, we will rise all together, we will rise. So let's do that chorus again. And if you want to rise, it's a good time to take a stretch. We will rise like the ocean. We will rise like the sun. We will rise all together. We will rise. Okay. We will rise like the ocean. We will rise like the sun. We will rise all together. We will rise. In our many-colored fabrics made from strands of colored thread, we will rise all together. We will rise. All right, looks good. We defy the threat of virus, we no longer live in fright. We will rise all together, we will rise. With our family, friends, and neighbors, we will walk into the light. We will rise all together, we will rise. Here we go. We will rise like the ocean. We will rise like the sun. We will rise all together. We will rise. With our family, friends, and neighbors, we will walk into the light. We will rise all together. We will rise. One more time. We will rise like the ocean. We will rise like the sun. We will rise all together, we will rise. With our family, friends, and neighbors, we will walk into the light. We will rise all together, we will rise. Fantastic. Thanks, everyone. And welcome to the church in Ocean Park. This is a wonderful, caring interfaith community, and we celebrate diversity and treating ourselves and others with respect. Our gatherings support and educate and challenge our relationships to self, to others, and to the world. Now, you might be wondering if you are welcomed here. Well, I am Dr. Kim Harris. I'm a proud member of the church in Ocean Park. And you know what? Since we're interfaith, you are welcome if you are Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, Christian, Wiccan, atheist, or some combination or something else together. Me, I'm Catholic, and I love coming to the church in Ocean Park. You are welcome if you are vaccinated or unvaccinated, if you are a citizen, if you are undocumented, or if you are a refugee. You are welcome. We extend a special invitation to those who are single, married, divorced, gay, transgender, extremely rich, or unfortunately very, very poor. We extend a special invitation to those with crying newborns, those with crying older people, those who just woke up, those who just got out of jail. You are welcome. We don't care if you are uber religious. if you go to 8 different churches in a Sunday morning, and if you go to worship services on Saturdays and Fridays and all different other kinds of days, you are welcome. Special invitation to those over 60 but not grown up yet, to teenagers growing up too fast, soccer moms, tree huggers, latte sippers, vegetarians, junk food eaters, flexitarians. You are welcome. And we offer a special invitation to those who work too hard, don't work, or have lost their jobs because of the pandemic, or are frontline workers. Those who can't spell, or those who are bored because they stayed home all day and heard this is a strange church and wanted to check it out. Welcome to the church in Ocean Park. One of the ways that we center ourselves is with a chant by Thich Nhat Hanh. And we will say this 3 times. I have arrived. I am home in the here and in the now. So please take a good deep breath. Oh, and thank God for being able to breathe. And we chant together. I have arrived. I am home in the here and in the now. I have arrived. I am home in the here and in the now. I have arrived. I am home in the here and in the now. Welcome to the church in Ocean Park.
Good morning. I'm Reverend Janet Gollery McKithen, and I'm the minister of the church in Ocean Park. And I'm very happy to be here this morning. I'm happy that you're all here. This is an exciting morning because we're going to hear from some of our book group members. One of the ways that we expand what we know about the world and about the people is to read books and to discuss them with a diverse group of people. And we're always trying to expand our awareness so that we can be better able to help create a more beloved community and a more equitable world. So the book group does that, and there are a variety of people in the book group that come from a variety of places, and I'm so excited because they're going to share why they're there and what brings them there, and what they get out of it, or things like that. And so we get to hear from them, and you'll see a list of the books that they have already read. It's very impressive. So I'm very excited about that, and I can't wait to get on with it. But I would like to tell you that the church in Ocean Park we strive to be a horizontal organization. So I am the pastor, but we have an organization that the structure of which puts responsibility in very different places. So we try to divvy out the responsibilities as well as the power. And it's one of the unique beauties and absolute qualities of the church in Ocean Park. It helps the community stay alive and vibrant because we're so diverse. We have different belief systems and different styles, so sometimes you might hear something that you disagree with when people are speaking this morning. If that happens, just know that your voice is just as important as theirs, and we want to hear it. And so if something happens in the church during the Sunday morning service and you'd like to talk about it more, just put that information in the chat, and we hope to open up some space that you can share about that, because there isn't always time to go into in-depth conversation about each topic. But I welcome you here, and I'm glad you're here, and I look forward to this morning. We begin with a song.
Morning, everybody. It's great to see you. This morning I want to share a song. Let me get those lyrics. I'm going to share a song called The Ship's Gonna Sail, And I thought of it when I heard about today's message. Oh, man. Okay, I can't share the lyrics. So it's called Ship's Gonna Sail. It's by Bruce Phillips and Paul Kamm. Can you hear that? I see a lot of heads nodding. Thank you. Working on a ship we may never sail on. Ship gonna sail someday. Working on a ship but we may never sail on. We're gonna build it anyway. Sojourner Truth said, ain't I a woman? Ship gonna sail someday. Mother Jones said, no child labor. Ship gonna sail someday. Eugene Deb said, no more prisons. Ship gonna sail someday. Joe Hill said, don't mourn, organize. Ship gonna sail someday. Working on a ship we may never sail on. Ship gonna sail someday. Working on a ship we may never sail on. We're gonna build it anyway. Mother Bloor said, sit down, sit down. Ship gonna sail someday. Paul Robeson said, I won't stop singing. Ship gonna sail someday. And Martin Luther King said, I have a dream. Ship gonna sail someday. Malcolm X said, power to the people. Ship gonna sail. We're gonna sail someday. Working on a ship we may never sail on. Ship gonna sail someday. Working on a ship we may never sail on. We're gonna build it anyway. Dorothy Day said, swords into plowshares. Ship gonna sail someday. And Cesar Chavez said, viva la huelga. Ship gonna sail someday. Judy Berry said, no more compromise. Ship gonna sail someday. And Phil Berrigan said, no more atom bombs. We're gonna sail it anyway. Ship gonna sail someday. Gonna sail someday. Now we're gonna build it anyway. Ship gonna sail someday. Now we're gonna ship. Wait. Now they're all gone, but we're still building. Ship gonna sail someday. Ship's gonna sail to peace and justice. Ship gonna sail someday. Working on a ship we may never sail on. Ship gonna sail someday. Working on a ship we may never sail on. We're gonna build it anyway. We're gonna build it anyway. Yeah, we're gonna build it anyway. Thank you.
With Daria, my new favorite song. We're going to build it anyway. We may never sail on that boat, but we're going to build it. Thank you so much. Bob Gord has been leading the Committee for Racial Justice book group for many years, maybe even a decade by now. I don't know what it is, but for many, many years. And he's it's consistent, and it's providing an amazing educational opportunity and community opportunity for so many people. And people have joined it who many of us may not know. So I'm very excited this morning, and I want to thank Bob from the bottom of my heart for his leadership in this group. And take it away, Bob.
Thank you, Janet. It hasn't been quite that long, but anyway, it's a stable group. We're ongoing. I love this group, and I enjoy being the coordinator of it. What's the purpose of the group? Well, we believe that knowledge is power, at least to some extent, and we all are passionately concerned about racial justice, and we want the power to work effectively for greater racial justice and a lot less racial injustice. And one of the ways in which we gain the knowledge is through reading significant books on the topic of race and getting together and discussing them so that we learn not only from the books, but from each other. Louise is now going to show you a list of the books that we have read so far in the group.
You're muted, Louise.
If that's not going to work, I can just read them.
No, it's going to work right now.
Okay. Okay, so far, and I'll mainly leave out the subtitles, but so far we have read, studied, discussed the following books by the following authors. Alex Vitale, The End of Policing. Kelly Lytle Hernandez, City of Inmates. Beverly Daniel Tatum, Why Are All the Black Kids Sitting Together in the Cafeteria? And Other Conversations About Race in America. Tianga Yamada Taylor, From Black Lives Matter to Black Liberation. Ibram X. Kendi, How to Be an Anti-Racist. Richard Rothstein, The Color of Law, A Forgotten History of How Our Government Segregated America. Also, back to Ibram Kendi, Stamped from the Beginning, The Definitive History of Racist Ideas in America. Next, Isabel Wilkerson, Caste. I should also mention that prior to the establishment of the present book group, a number of people in the church and community read Michelle Alexander's groundbreaking book, The New Jim Crow, as a single book that many of us have read and discussed. Okay, next we're going to hear from several members of the group who are going to tell you something about their experiences. One of them, Deborah Kaufman, sent in a video since she couldn't actually appear this morning. Okay, but we'll start with Cindy.
Good morning. I'm Cindy McQuaid, and I've been very grateful to be a part of the book study. I'm a licensed social worker. I'm a member of the other Methodist Church, First United Methodist Church. So it's been a great experience for me. I'm the type of person who loves to get lost in a novel. I'm not someone who would sit down with a nonfiction book. I have to force myself through them. So I'm most grateful to be able to have the opportunity to dialogue and listen to a lot of more educated minds sharing. So that's been just a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for me. And it's also forced me to really pay attention to what I'm reading when I'm sharing. So I'm very grateful for that. And it's been one of the wonderful opportunities in terms of the pandemic, because the pandemic has brought the blessing to me of being able to meet with this group. I'm someone who's tried certainly not to be a racist, but I am not educated, have not been educated about systemic racism. And that's what I've needed to open my mind to, systemic racism, and also to educate other people that it's not just about personally not being a racist, it's about changing a system that is racist. So I'm very grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cindy. And now we'll hear from Deborah Kaufman by video.
Okay, that's me. Okay, share screen.
Hi, I'm Deborah. I participate in the CRJ Book Club, and I'm a member of St. Augustine by the Sea Episcopal Church in Santa Monica. I found my way to the CRJ Book Club back in June of 2020. So like many people, I ended up having a hunger to learn more about the history of racism in this country and how to kind of start to move along the spectrum of both being a good neighbor and then eventually being able to be a good ally in anti-racism. And I have to say this group has been welcoming and really transforming for me. We've read really good books together. Like the first one that we did together was The Color of Law, and I've learned so much about federal, local policy regulations that have really harmed and hurt people of color and Black Americans. That's been a really helpful book. The other one is Stamped from the Beginning, and that really was helpful for me because I knew very little about the entire US history of racism and the way that I was able to unpack it together with a really good group at CRJ where I can ask questions and I can hear other people's opinions, but also read together with a really good group of people was transforming for me. So I can't recommend CRJ enough. I'd encourage anybody, even if you're just curious, contact the folks who are in charge at your church at CRJ and consider joining us. Just check us out, come and see. But I will say with me coming and seeing, it's helped me to start to move along that spectrum. And if nothing else, I'm learning more so that I could start to move from being a good neighbor to eventually being a good ally in helping to look at racial and social justice. Thanks again.
Thank you, Cindy. And Craig will speak now.
Yes, book group. You know, one thing when I think about the book group is something that a colleague, when I was working at LA City College, had pretty much offered up to me. And that statement was, when have you ever been in a situation in which you haven't had to battle? When I first, I think, got involved with the church in Ocean Park, they had told me that there was a book group. And one of the books that they were looking at discussing was The New Jim Crow, Michelle Alexander. And at this point, I was saying, oh my Lord, I done died and went to heaven. Having said that, because I'm now more or less interfacing with people who've seen the book and have opinions about it, grounded me in a way in which I can now more or less defend and take shots at the criminal justice system. And I found myself doing that at my job with one of the vendors at the marketplace, because she was dyed-in-the-wool, staunch dyed-in-the-wool, pointing the finger that O.J. Simpson's guilty. And I said, no, you need to read the book. And as a result, when we come back to the book group, it gives me a sense of, roots and groundedness in regards to not just what we say as the criminal justice system, but all types of things that are racially motivated in the way of institutions. So I feel very, very fortunate to be a part of this group. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. And now Linda Bond.
Thank you. On the 4th of July, I was at Craig and Claudia's house, and Maureen Shannon Chapel, we were outside on the patio actually, and Maureen came in and said, Linda, that's you. I never saw you in person before, but I feel like I know you because of the book group. And it was just really special to me. And that's sort of how I feel, right? That we've been through a long, hard time, and we've made new friends that we had actually never seen in person before. And that's, anybody who knows me knows that I would be like a pig in shit when people are reading important and interesting books and talking about ideas. That's my default. So this has obviously been where, I just love this group. That's what I do for fun, is read books and talk about ideas, important ideas about how to change the world. And that's what we've been talking about. That's what we've been talking about. But we've also made those human connections, which without those human connections, we're just, Talmudic scholars or something. We're just sitting in a house reading a book and, like that. So I just love this group. Like everybody else who's talked, it's really my, what I do for fun. And I think I've learned a lot from everybody else, as well as from the books that we've read. And in particular, what I really have liked the best is getting everybody's perspective and being able to listen as well as to talk, which I do a lot of.
Thank you, Linda. Okay. Now I want to announce the next book that we have decided to read, and that is called The Sum of Us. The author is Heather McGee, and lots of people in Santa Monica are reading this book. People on the school board, the superintendent, and so forth. So it's a great book for us to read so we can be in conversation with some of those folks. But I also think it's a very terrific, important book on its own right. Okay, to get you a little bit interested in it, Dr. Kim Harris has found a video for us of the author introducing the book.
Okay, here we go. I'm very excited about this book in particular. She's been on everybody's show, The Daily Show and Stephen Colbert and everything like that. But here's a video of her speaking about why and how she decided to write this book.
I worked at the organization Demos, which is a think tank whose mission is to create an America where we all have an equal say in our democracy and an equal chance in our economy. I started working there in an entry-level position in the Economic Opportunity Program when I was 22. And over the next nearly 2 decades, I worked my way up to be president, where I served for 4 years. before transitioning to write the book that is available for pre-order now and will be out on February 16th. The book really reflects a light bulb that went off for me. And I think that many of you in the virtual room right now may have a sense of kind of where I was when this light bulb went off. I had been working for over a decade trying to win public policies that would help level the playing field, that would invest in the American people, whether it was a higher minimum wage or the issue that I really was the center of my career for the first decade was the issue of predatory lending, trying to get better safeguards on our financial system so that working class people weren't being preyed upon by lenders, whether it was payday lenders or subprime mortgage lenders or rent to own, really wanting to make it possible for ordinary families to build wealth. And, our concern was the issue of inequality, the fact that there was obviously enough resources to go around, that some people were getting very, very wealthy in this economy, but so few people were really being able to keep their heads above water. And I saw the relationship between inequality and racism, or inequality and race, as sort of linear, right? There's this problem of inequality with bad economic policy decisions, and racism makes the impacts of those bad economic policy decisions worse for people of color, for immigrants of color, for African Americans, for indigenous people, for people whom had structurally been the subject of laws that explicitly disadvantage and are still the subject of job discrimination and housing discrimination and discrimination in the criminal justice system, right? We have inequality. Racism makes inequality worse for people of color. But I also had this nagging sense that there was something that we were missing as a community of advocates who are trying to make a better world. And so much of it had to do with these questions of public investment. We would advocate for funding for early childhood, for funding for schools, for funding for after-school programs, for nutrition programs, things that seemed like they were obvious investments in our people. We would trot out the economic data that would show you get a 5-to-1 return in economic growth from these kinds of investments. I know that you all know those numbers and know how we try to make the economic case for caring for one another. And yet still, we were seeing a growing of a movement that was simply opposed to the very idea of investing in our people and in our future. And I had to ask why. Why was it that a lot of the advocates and policymakers and politicians and commentators who, said that they cared about the economy and jobs first were completely unmoved by all of our economic rationales and reasoning, all the data we put out about how this would be great for the American economy? And so in 2017, I started to make the transition, handed over the reins at Demos to a wonderful new leader named Sabeel Rahman, and went out on a journey where I traveled the country. I went from Maine to Mississippi to California and back again, a bunch of different places, a dozen or so states, and talked to hundreds of people about why it is that we just can't seem to have nice things in this country. And by nice things, I'm not talking about laundry that does itself and personal hovercraft, both of which would be great, but I'm really talking about the kinds of things that you fight for every day. Investments in our people and our future, real universal and affordable healthcare, the clean air and water, infrastructure that gets higher than a D+ from the American Society of Civil Engineers, which is the current rating of American infrastructure. Well-funded public schools, etc. And more, as I went across the country in this journey and I spoke to hundreds of people, both ordinary folks struggling to make change in their communities, and then experts not from the area of my expertise, which was economic and social policy, but experts who focused on these deeper questions of psychology, of political science, of how it is that people see the world and make sense of it. And what was revealed to me was that it wasn't the case, the way I'd been thinking about it, and so many people in my field had been thinking about it, that inequality and bad economic policy decisions when they interacted with racism, it made it worse for people of color. It was rather that racism was driving inequality with impacts for all of us. So that's why the title of my book is The Sum of Us, What Racism Costs Everyone and How We Can Prosper Together.
Thank you, Kamm, for showing that. So, especially if you're interested in reading and talking about that book, this would be a great time to give the book group a try. You can get on our mailing list by writing to me, emailing me, and my name will show up a little bit later when we get to announcements. So, thank you for listening, and see you at the book group.
Thank you so much. Okay, it's time for another song. I was able to get the lyrics in the chat. This is called The Ink is Black. It's written by Earl Robinson and David Arkin. Earl Robinson is famous for I don't remember. He wrote a beautiful long piece, Song of America or something like that. And David Arkin is the father of the actor Alan Arkin. And the last verse was an add-on, and it was after the Supreme Court decision, Brown versus Board of Education in 1954, I believe, or 1955. And we had 9 Supreme Court judges at that time. So also Three Dog Night, the rock group, made this song popular. The ink is black, the page is white. Together we learn to read and write. A child is black, a child is white. The whole world looks upon the sight, a beautiful sight. And now a child can understand that this is the law of the land, of the land. The world is black, the world is white. It turns by day and then by night. The child is black, the child is white. Together they grow to see the light, to see the light. And now at last we plainly see we'll have a chance at liberty, liberty. The world is black, the world is white. It turns to by day and then by night. A child is black, a child is white. The whole world looks upon the sight, a beautiful sight. Their robes were black, their heads were white. The school doors closed, were closed so tight, were closed so tight. 9 judges all set down their names to end the years and years of shame, the years of shame. The ink is black, the page is white. Together we learn to read and write. A child is black, a child is white. The whole world looks upon the sight, a beautiful sight, beautiful sight, a beautiful sight. Thank you. It's now time for community sharing, and this is a time where Anybody can speak their mind. You can ask a question or not. People can answer questions or not. So I will choose names in a random order. Well, the random order might have to do with hearing voices we haven't heard or new people. Doesn't necessarily go in order of when your hands are lifted up. So let's hear from Maureen Shannon Chapel.
Hi, thank you so much for this presentation. I just want a deep bow of gratitude to the book club and all of the people in it. It is really, it's remedial education, right? Because we've often given a really short shrift on the truth of our history and even the way it is in the present. So it's really helped me to flesh out that I had the idea of systematic racism, but it helps to actually, it's really helped make my understanding deeper of what that means. And of course, we do this because we bring whatever we've learned, whatever understandings we've gained from each other into the world and all the work we do. So just a special shout out to Bob for his leadership. Yay.
Thank you.
And Linda for her history lessons. She is a history teacher who has studied this stuff so extensively. I always learn something from you. Craig, for your faithfulness, turning up every week and just sharing perspectives as a Black man that have really opened my eyes to a lot and helped me understand things better as well. So deep appreciation to all. Thank you.
All right, Trudy Goodwin, please share with us.
Yes, thank you guys so much for that introduction to the book group. I work as an organizer to abolish the prison complex. And many weekends I'm called to either go out in the community and do work or work on various campaigns. So I cannot say that I have been a faithful attendant of the book group, but I absolutely believe that as the church has become noted for all of its work in social justice, climate change, work for women, we are making a stamp for Santa Monica and beyond on addressing these issues of inequality as it relates to race. I predict that in another 10, 20 years, folks are going to be talking about the incredible and remarkable work that we have done within this church to make racism something that folks are aware of and no longer afraid to talk about. And yeah, I want to thank my hubby for pulling this together and hanging on to it and moving our knowledge forward. Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, honey.
Sweet. Jean Gasca, share.
Well, I'm with Trudy in that I have not always been to every book group meeting, but I have gained an awful lot from reading the books that I did read. What I found remarkable is that we did this during the pandemic when so many inequalities have risen to the surface in the eyes of our nation. So we were reading about the history, the federal laws, policies of realtors, federal loan kinds of laws that worked against people of color and people who lived on the margins. And like Maureen said, I didn't really know anything about this. I swallowed all my history, you know, from K through 12 and even in college without understanding the things that our country did that were so detrimental to people of color. So to be reading these books and to see what was happening in our country, and now the laws that are being changed, there are 400 laws, I think, now that are on the books for limiting voting access, that are supposed to look like they're making voting more fair and to get rid of fraud in voting. Laws about not giving food and water to people standing in line to vote, things like it's been remarkable for me to see this, to watch the whole incident with George Floyd being killed, and to be reading about the prison complex and police departments and the possibility of changing policing in America. All of that at the same time has been remarkable for me. So it's really been a wake-up call. And like Deborah, I feel like I've always wanted to be a good neighbor. I've always been, I don't know if I could call myself an anti-racist in the past, but not a racist person, good to everyone I meet, etc. But now it feels like I can be part of a bigger community that can work against injustice in our world. So thank you, Bob. I know I can't always be there for a lot of different reasons, but I've gained a lot. Thanks.
Thank you, Jean.
Okay, Daria.
Well, I have not attended every single book club meeting, but one thing that I do want to say is that Bob, you're wait a second. You're absolutely right in saying that knowledge is power, because with this book club and with Heather McGee's video, just simply learning more about something can help you make a decision to take action that will lead hopefully towards more justice. So thank you for this morning, and thank you for the video of Heather McGee. It's very, very interesting, and looking forward to reading her book.
All right, Abby.
I've been in the group from the beginning.
You went on mute, Abby.
Am I unmuted now?
We can hear you now.
You can hear me. Okay. I've been in the group through all the books, including the Michelle Alexander one. I'm partially sighted and disabled, as most of you know, and we don't have our Kendi, to write analytical stuff for us. So through all of my life, I read things about Black people and discrimination. And I felt somewhat guilty about it, but after being in this group, most of the authors we read do consider the disabled as a minority with some of the same problems as racial minorities have. Some of the same examples, like the one book about the high school students. This one person told a Black student who was straight A's, you'll never go to college. Well, they told me that too. In those days, junior college was called finishing school, and it only applied to females. And if I had had an affinity group, I would have heard somebody else say, yeah, he told me that too. But I didn't get to hear that. Another thing about, I had a driver who came with me before we went on Zoom, and I didn't need him anymore, at least not for that purpose, who's Black. And I explained to him, I wanted to go from Orange County to the church to be involved in the group. And I said, it's about racism, and I'm not sure if you'll be comfortable it's about, and then he said, well, what do you mean? Don't you people know that we're discriminated? Yeah, we know that, but this is just, it says how Black people are discriminated. It's like about the law. Oh yeah, well, he can relate to his own encounters with the law. Anyway, he did become a part of the group, and I got to watch his attitude evolve into being a lot less pessimistic. I did learn a lot from the group, both about myself as a disabled person and as a white person, learning about Black history and how we can be involved. I know I am, being 81 years old and disabled. The revolution is probably going to happen after I'm gone. And then we just had to talk about the ships, even if you don't sail, you gotta build it anyway. And yeah, whatever I can do to build that ship, I will.
Thanks, Abby.
Right
How
on.
about Bonnie Johnstone?
Hi, I want to thank CRJ and the book group for enhancing my education. I'm not a strong attendee, but being aware of the group, aware of the books, I've been able to pull some from the library eventually. The wait lists can be forever, but worth the wait. And I just want to say I'm really grateful, and this work continues to make inroads into my brain. And occasionally I'm able to pass on a snippet to somebody else, and on the phone or whatever, can hear the light bulb go off. So thank you. And then on a, shall we say, sentimental note, the last song we sang is special to me in part because Earl Robinson was a featured speaker at church one time, many, many years ago. And it was sweet and uplifting and inspiring to hear him talk, lead us in song. And something he put forth was the importance of hugs. He even gave us a little song about hugs. And that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Bonnie. All right, Hurley Jim.
Thanks, Louise. Yeah, Hurley Jim, any, all pronouns are fine with me. I have been a part of the book group, not always, well, like Trudy in a way. I miss some of the meetings, but I definitely read the books. And they even launched me into reading other books that the authors have written. I think in some ways I would credit the CRJ book group in priming me for getting into Justice LA, which I've been involved in a lot. It's a group that, again, Trudy knows very well. It's interesting that she and I don't actually cross paths that often there, but a lot of the coalition partners are ones that she is involved with, Dignity and Power Now. And it was actually Yvette LA that we honored at Communitas, who got me into Justice LA. She was part of a Zoom call that I was on, and when I heard her talking about decarceration and abolition, I'm not sure she used that term, but that's what she was talking about. And Justice LA, I thought, okay, I got to get involved. So the book that books, I guess, we share a lot of books in Justice LA too. And one of them that I've recommended probably more than any other is City of Inmates, because it talks about our project, what we're doing in the background to it. And the other one is one that we haven't read yet, but I think is in our future, and that is Until We Reckon, that Bob told me about. Bob has been a gem in all this because he's read so many books, and he can recommend them. I want to just appreciate Louise for the songs that you are coming up with, particularly this morning, always, but you know, these are just spot on. You know, they're simple but really deeply profound. And I don't know if you remember, Louise, that a cappella jam sang the second one when the auditorium at Jams, John Adams Middle School, was still up. It's torn down now. But we sang it for the launch of the city of Santa Monica as a lifelong learning community, a cappella jam. I can still picture us on stage there with Dan Siegel and some of the others. Anyway, great songs. Thank you, Louise.
Trudy.
Sorry, folks. I just had to come back in and acknowledge Janet McKithen, because Janet is the person that was able to recognize the vision that we had for CRJ, not just the book club, but also the work that CRJ continues to do. And that shows immense leadership as far as I'm concerned. And without Janet, I doubt very seriously if this book club would be as successful as it is. So I just want to go on record as having acknowledged her hard work and commitment.
Well, thank you, Trudy. I wanted to add something about the book group. As some people have said here, they don't always attend, but they read the books. I'm sort of in that category as well, since it's not been in my backyard. When it was in my backyard, I was there. But also, I wanted to let you know that you might not know that Bob is not confined to the church in Ocean Park, but he's also been leading some of these book discussions in other churches. Cove of Palms United Methodist Church read books, and now they're continuing, and partly due to the fact that Bob instigated reading a book over there. And so there's been offshoots of the book group, like they had one time we read White Privilege, one time, not White Privilege, White Too Long, other books like that have been just like one-shot deals. So I think the book group has sparked a lot more conversation and education than we know about. So I want to thank you, Bob, very much for that.
Thank you, Jenny.
All right, is there anybody else who I didn't see their hand? Okay, Reverend Joseph.
Yes, just to include my thanks to Bob and all the diligent readers who have kept up this very important task of reading. The first time I really came into contact with this type of issue with respect to slavery and racism and so on was in my own home in Trinidad. I don't know if you know, we had a Prime Minister, Dr. Eric Williams, and he wrote a book entitled Capitalism and Slavery. And this was the book that really opened my eyes, because previously we used to talk about the moral injustice and the moral issues involved in racism and slavery and so on. But he brought a new perspective, the economic and the industrialization, and he brought that new perspective into the whole issue. So it might be a good book. It's an old book, but it might still be a good book to look at. I'm not in any detail maybe, but just to be aware of what issues it brings forward. But I have not been in the book club, but I'm following, I follow what is happening, and I want to compliment you for this aspect of the church's education. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Joseph. I see the book title and author is in the chat. Thanks to Linda. Is there anybody else? One quick share. If not, our dear friend Dr. Kim Harris has a song for us.
Yes, indeed, and thank you all so much. Thank you. This song, "Come to the Tree of Life," it's by Matt Jones, and it is actually, Matt Jones was one of the original SNCC Freedom Singers, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee singers, back in the early 1960s. I may have said this here before, but I think he and his brother got arrested 29 times working for civil rights. And they've got some incredible stories to tell. And after that time, he continued to gather people together and write songs and just continue to write. So this is one of the songs that he wrote, I believe, in the 1980s. And when you think of that tree of life image, so many of our traditions have a tree of life as a part of the tradition. There are things that we know that we don't know we know. Come to the tree of life. There are things that we know that we don't know we know. Come to the tree of life. Here comes the chorus. Come to the tree of life. Come to the tree of life. There are things that we know that we don't know we know. Come to the tree of life. Now it's a zipper song, so we think of it. There are things that we do that we don't know we do. Come to the tree of life. There are things that we do that we don't know we do. Come to the tree of life. Come to the tree of life. Come to the tree of life. There are things that we do that we don't know we do. Come to the tree of life. There are things that we say that we don't know we say. Come to the tree of life. There are things that we say that we don't know we say. Come to the tree of life. Come to the tree of life. Come to the tree of life. There are things that we say that we don't know we say. Come to the tree of life. Sing that chorus again. Come to the tree of life. Come to the tree of life. There are things that we say that we don't know we say. Come to the tree of life.
Beautiful. Never heard that. That's wonderful. Thanks, Kim. It's time for our announcements. Please take a breath here. Let's take a couple breaths. Take that song in.